All right, Module 2 material. We're going to solve equations. This is everyone's second favorite. First, sign rules. Second, solve equations. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, solving equations is very important for you to understand. And the reason why it's important is because this is not something you're going to get away from. You're not going to get away from sign rules. You're not going to get away from solving equations. So it's very important that you understand the rules, the reasoning, and the process. So let's go ahead and let's look at what an equation is. Now, we talked about in a couple sections ago, an equation has an equal sign. And we also talked about the solution of an equation makes that number or makes that equation true. Remember when we asked, determine whether 6 was a solution of the given equation, and we plugged in a 6 for x, and if both sides were the same, it was a yes. If it was two different numbers, it was a no. So this is what it means to have a solution of the equation. It makes the equation true. It makes a yes. Equivalent equations, these are equations with the same solution. To check your answer, plug in x into your original equation. So this is exactly what we were doing that day that we plugged in that number into the equation to make sure both sides were the same. That's the exact same step that you're doing here to check your answer. There are two different types of rules that we can use that gives us the authority of solving equations. It's the addition property of equality, and that tells us that we can add or subtract the same number to both sides of the equation and still have a true statement. The multiplication property of equality says you can multiply or divide the same number to both sides of the equation and still have a true statement. These are our two properties that we are going to use today to solve equations. Now, I'm not going to give you an example of that. I'll mention that again when we get to that particular step. This is something else that's very important about solving equations. Equations are like a balancing scale. What you do to one side, you have to do the other. This is the golden rule of algebra. It is very important to keep that scale balanced. If we keep it balanced, then we're going to end up with the right solution. But if we start stacking too many things on one side, that means if we're doing too many operations on one side and not the other, that's not how our rules work, and you're not going to end up with the correct answer. You're going to just end up with a bunch of a mess. So you want to always do to one side what you will do to the other. Hopefully that will help you be successful in solving equations. Now, our steps for solving equations, you always want to remove fractions first, and in this first section you won't see that many fractions, but in our next section in 2.3 you will see fractions. So I'm going to actually repeat this number 1. I'm not going to say the whole thing right now. I'll repeat this number 1 when we get to fractions next section. Clear grouping symbols. This is what we're going to see today. We're going to clear the grouping symbols, which are going to be parentheses, by using the distributive property. We want to simplify each side by combining like terms. So each side of the equation, you have a left side of the equation, that's the left side of the equal sign, and a right side of the equation, the right side of the equal sign. So you want to simplify each side where it's in simplest form on the left and the right before you apply your addition property of equality or your multiplication property of equality. Okay, and this is when you actually apply those properties, moving all variables to one side and the numbers to the other. Solve for the variable, and then check your solution. Now let's go ahead and get started so we can do an example. So remember, you want to get rid of your parentheses first. I don't have parentheses in this first example. So what I'm going to do is make sure that I have no like terms. So I'm going to cover up my equal sign. Do I have any like terms? No, it's in simplest form. On the right side, it's in simplest form also. So that means that I want to move all my numbers to one side and my variables to the other side. Now notice that I only have one variable, and it's already by itself. I need to move everything that's with it to the other side. So instead of adding 7, I want to subtract 7 to both sides. Now why are we doing this? Because we want to get the x by itself. What is 7 minus 7? Well, it's 0. So if it's 0, that means that I have canceled it on the side with the variable, which x plus 0 is just x, and I moved the 7 to the other side. 10 minus 7 is 3. So our goal when we are solving equations is to move all the numbers away from the variable. So if you have anything added or subtracted, you want to do the opposite operation. So since I had adding or plus 7, I minus 7 to both sides so I could cancel it out on the side with my variable and bring it to the side that didn't have my variable. So again, the reason why we did the opposite operation is because 7 minus 7 is 0. We're making 0. We're canceling it out and bringing it to the other side. So x equals 3. If you wanted to check your answer, what you would do is plug in a 3 inside your original equation. So wherever there's an x, I would have plugged in a 3. So I have 3 plus 7 equals 10. And 3 plus 7 is 10. And 10 equals 10, so that checks. Now, I'm not going to do that checking step for every problem, just to show you how to do it that first time, and then you can do it on your own if you want to. Alright, the step that we applied with that 7, that's our addition property of equality. What we did on one side, we do the other. So that means that we could have added or subtracted the same number to both sides of our equal sign and had a true statement. Alright, let's do our B, and then this will be the end of this first part of the video, and we'll pick up on C with our next one. So the addition property of equality, remember you want to get rid of this minus 2 and bring it over. So instead of minus 2, I'm going to add 2 to both sides of our equation. So I have a negative 2 and a positive 2. That's like 2 minus 2. Again, that cancels it out. And I'm just left with x. And x equals negative 4 plus 2, different signs. I'm going to subtract. Take the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number is negative, so my answer is negative. So again, the reason why we did the plus 2 here is because we had a minus 2 and we wanted it to cancel out on the side with the variable and move it to the side that didn't have the variable. So these are our first two answers.